Welcome to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast with your host, Trent M. Clark, three-time World Series coach, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, having started 12 companies, coach to the 1%, and an international speaker. This show is going to be your go-to podcast for facing adversity, being inspired, and overcoming obstacles, all from the best in the world, business, sports, and leadership. Hate the crappy ingredients in many beverages and energy drinks? Rebellious Infusions are the go-to functional beverage. They have 5 or fewer plant-based organic ingredients, no sugar, no calories, loaded with antioxidants to boost your immune system, and L-theanine for brain health. Rebellious Infusions are available at drinkrebellious.com. Rethink your drink. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999.
Hello, this is Trent Clark, Coach Trent to many, and I am the CEO of Leadershipity and AIM, Athletic Influencer Marketing. And I am a international speaker, longtime coach, coaching in 3 World Series in professional baseball. Got a little funky glow today. My camera seems to be not working that magic around my camera today as far as background, but excited to be with you today. We're talking about the audit of excellence. And for those that do not know, one of the things that is probably unique and intriguing about my life is that I started in sports at a very young age. And I had what I called this early stage audit of excellence. And how that went was when I was a sophomore in high school, I turned 16 years old, and my high school went to 3 state championships in a row in baseball. And I played pretty high level of tennis in high school, played in some championships there on, travel weekends and things like that. And travel baseball, we were very good. So a number of things there. But big highlights were 3 state titles. And then I went to college. I played in 2 junior college national championships for tennis. And then I went on to pro ball and played in 2 World Series, all before I was 27 years old. So in an 11-year span, I went to 7 major championships in my life and 5 years in a row. And so at this young age, I was so interested in how do you get better? How do you create, excellence in teams? How do you create this value for organizations? And how do I make myself better? I was always interested in that. And so really started this audit. And this week I spent the week down in Florida, in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, and unbelievable weather for us Michiganders. Always nice to get down to Florida in the middle of February, especially during an ice storm. So it was great to actually be sitting by a pool hearing, oh my gosh, schools are closing the next day. Not great that people are at home with their challenges, but definitely good that I'd seen enough for this winter and maybe missed one of those storms. So that was a benefit, I guess, of being down south. Now, me and some close business associates, members of my owner forum in the entrepreneur organization, we were on a retreat into South Florida, meeting with a number of just amazing people running different organizations and have done and accomplished some things in their life. And so we had a number of sit downs with different people. And there were some themes as we were doing this audit of excellence that we were looking at. And one of the first themes that really came to my mind was meeting with these highly successful people was that health is a big deal. The moment people have some financial success, they get educated, the biggest thing they want to do for sure is maintaining that health and wellness so that they can live a long and enjoyable life, and for their family, for their grandkids, for their employees. Make sure they stay in top physical, emotional, spiritual, moral state, because it's so important. And I think the mental and moral conditioning really stuck out because more and more people are really adding on that, where physical conditioning was so important for many years. Felt like people probably lagged behind on mental and moral conditioning, where, I look back in our country and in the United States, moral conditioning was very high coming out of the world wars in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, even until we got to mid-late 60s. And then things kind of started to lag on the moral conditioning. And so and I felt like it's gone the other way ever since. It's probably slowly deteriorated some of our moral conditioning along that way. But that was so important. I know Coach Wooden talked about those 3 aspects of mental, physical, and moral conditioning. And certainly admire his work, of course. And so that always intrigued me about, getting better and how we would do that. And so when I think about that from the aspect of these folks I met in a lot of conversations around what they're working on and what was important to them, obviously that health one stick out. And then the second one that was really evident was their choices. And I remember Rick Pitino, famous college basketball coach. I probably read a book from him 15 or 20 years ago called Success is a Choice. And that really stuck out my mind because we make choices every single day and there's thousands of them. I mean, it's astronomical and it's getting more and more each and every day. So the average person makes thousands of decisions a day. And as I've done some research on this regarding CEOs, owners of companies, people in leadership, running organizations, you are likely making in the tune of 50,000 decisions a day. I mean, that is a ton of decisions. And this is very contrary, indicative of our time because, in the 70s, they could do data on that and there was nowhere near the amount of decisions that people have to make today. So, it's not even half a decade later, 50 years later, and we've literally gone from 10 to 15,000 to 50 to 60,000 decisions a day. So it's absolutely significant. Information travels very fast. The next thought as I watched all these folks make their decisions and choices, they're very protective, maybe the word, of the people they surround themselves with. Who do they want to be around, and who else are making choices that they admire and feel are good and will also help them in their choices. I think that's been a really evident part of in speaking with highly successful people is they're looking at who around me, if I have a tough choice to make, will help walk me through that and help me make a good choice and relatively quickly. And that brings me to the next really key evidence of, when we were talking with a couple of my clients who are leaders in very large organizations, often somewhere between 20 and $200 million in top line revenue. So they're operating a team, a pretty large team in most cases, of individuals that are all trying to contribute to the greater good and the sustainability of the organization, because that's job security for sure. And as we talked about this, learning was so important. And so I saw three categories where I consider them very similar. And I don't have a great deal of experience around military experience, military training, but I have a number of clients who have been through very high level military training. And so I see this very congruent environment for high level military training, professional athletes, and entrepreneurs of, multi-million dollar companies. And they're the founder of businesses. They are in charge of organizations and have a great deal of responsibility, one of those huge itties. And so all three of those categories, if you're going to be in those areas, you're just taking on a large scale of responsibility as a business owner, as a pro athlete and teammate, as a person in a military outfit, especially at that special forces level. And man, the one really item that really stuck out is that what happens in all three of these environments is like everyone who comes into these environments together have all been raised up as really popular, really strong in their field, admired for their abilities or service or ability to lead, skill sets. And the one thing that just continues to come back is that one of the key skill sets of those folks is that their ability to learn and learn rapidly and adapt to situations because of their multiple learnings and multiple experiences, it becomes very evident very quickly. So they are absolute hyper learners, and they have also have a big idea of humility, right? When you get in around the best in the world at something, you're humbled often very quickly because you meet other people that are better at things than you are. And they can just do things like you're amazed by certain levels of skill or certain levels of talent or, intellectual insights. I mean, it's amazing. Even emotional control, fortitude, resilience. There's just a lot of ways we would describe someone who's at the top of any of those three games, and those three particular areas, and they're very similar. So as I watch these folks talk about that, they talked about like how quickly they were able to learn through these items and have people support their decisions around them who were also very good at learning at that pace and learning on the fly. And we say a lot of times about entrepreneurs, they take some risks, and in all those areas, there's a lot of risk management. And I get the fact that there's a lot of people that would be very uncomfortable taking off on a plane with no landing gear. And so you're thinking like, wait a minute, this isn't good. So we took off, but how do we land? And so if you took off of the plane and then had to build the landing gear on the trip, that's not very comfortable for most people. And it's going to really determine what's the team that you have around you that's going to, create that. Are they people that have done it before? They know exactly what they're doing. How long is this trip? Lots of factors that are going into that. There's people that have a level of comfort in doing it because they've done it before. And they know how to do it. They've got the skill set. They've got all the directions. They know the equipment, all these things. Or they're with 5 people that have all done it before, and they have a level of comfort knowing that these people have done it before and been very successful. And that experience is something we cannot replicate easily without some prep and reps. And that's what builds our confidence. So that was just a huge learning lesson for me this week as we walk down this lesson of an audit of excellence and meeting these people and these fabulous organizations. And a big thank you to the people of South Florida that opened their doors and opportunities to us. It was a really wonderful experience. And as I close, I will tell you the last itty that I thought was really important as I met these people, which was spirituality. And all of them in their own way talked about, something greater than themselves and a higher power of spirituality in their lives, and, making decisions based on that commitment to others other than themselves, whether that's family, their church, their faith, other things. But faith seems to come back again and again around. And, it was refreshing because now you're seeing people that are running these organizations that have those big three of physical, mental, and moral conditioning. And they're really getting that. And they're probably really leaning on some of that faith as their outlet for moral conditioning. And they're not just hearing it and deceiving themselves on what that might mean, as like James 1:22 in the Bible says, but they're doing it. They're taking action. They are absolutely executing on what that's supposed to look like. And I don't think, and they don't think probably, that it's perfect. Like I've never made an error. I got it just right. It's a wake up every day and start that process over again about how do I care for my family well, care for my fellow man, really treat my people well within the organization, treat others as I want to be treated. All these golden rules of health and care and spiritual faith, and we track that, very intentional in all cases about how that's going to go and how that's going to look in their lives. And I was pretty impressed as I look at this audit of how valuable that really is for folks. And it was a good reminder of habits are established daily, and we can't move away from what we believe without executing it and saying, hey, this is really important to me and this is what I really believe, even though I don't do any of the things I say that are important. So it's kind of goes back to that adage where, hey, I'll know what's important to you when I see your calendar and where your time is spent. So it was evident that not only were family, friends, business, the relationships in their life very important, calendar reflected it, and they were even living out that example by taking the time to sit down with us and mentor and educate and show us their processes and talk to us about their folks and what their dreams and visions and goals were and why they chose what they chose. And it was a really magical week in South Florida. I'm so thankful for the many that helped provide the opportunity for us, for the the fellow leaders to come alongside of our organization and help us lead better. Always something I'm looking to do, even though I have a leadership firm, I'm teaching that and directing that. I'm always learning and always trying to get better and bringing that information back to our teams and the clients that we work. It's just so important. And so super excited for this week and a great audit of excellence and looking in some things I'm going to be doing this week differently to implement things in my life that are going to adjust in my health schedules to make things more efficient and better able in creating time and space for that important and live that out. And of course, continuing to surround myself with high quality people that help me make great choices as I determine, sure, I want to be successful, but success is a choice, as Coach Pitino said, and it's a choice you make thousands of times a day. And you and I both know that we've made bad choices in our life, some choices probably we regret, and those choices are real, and the consequences of those choices are real. And so as we look at that and as we drive through ourselves as leaders and developing and modeling for others, that so key that we're always on our game, prepared to always do our best in making choices, because we know the incorrect ones can be really detrimental and set us back pretty far, and hopefully not life-threatening, but certainly we've seen it. And lastly, as we look at the power of faith and power of keeping true to ourselves and loving ourselves just as we are, and I think that's really important. And it's not easy in these days. It's not easy in these days of comparison. It's not easy in these days of a lot of noise pulling us in a direction, maybe shaming you for what you believe. I mean, that's bonkers. And I just don't believe any of us were made with any flaws and mistakes. It was intentional. We were made perfectly, exactly the way we are for many reasons, which will probably show its head someday to us and be clear, even though we may not always understand it. So really thankful for the opportunity this week and looking forward to seeing you out on the road next time. And please come and see me next time I'm speaking near you. You can reach me direct at trent@leadershipity.com. And my cell phone is 480-710-3712. You can text me, ask me a question anytime. Love to hear from you, hear from the audience. Always good. Ask me a question at either one of those phone number. Sometimes we do some Q&A answering on the show, and always enjoy that, especially when I get a number of the same questions. We like to tackle those points. So until next time on Winners Find a Way, I will see you then. Coach Trent Clark. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Rebellious Infusions are organic flavored water enhancers. Rebellious provides clean, focused energy in liquid packets. Just tear the corner of the packet and pour 16 ounces of water. Rebellious Infusions have no sugar, no calories, and up to 300 milligrams of antioxidants and loads of L-theanine for brain health. Rethink your drink at drinkrebellious.com. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999. Do you want to be our next guest? Or do you have inspiring stories to share? Or do you love to inspire, support, and empower thought leaders? Feel free to send Trent a direct message on Instagram or Facebook at Leadershipity.